Got it. Enable room. Okay, so Hare Krishna, spotlight for everyone.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Sumedh, would you like to just put a reminder in the group? Thank you.
Sure, yes.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. So today we will be reading chapter 25 of the third canto. It is entitled The Glories of Devotional Service. Sometimes you wonder, why do we perform devotional service? And in this particular chapter, you can see the glories, why we should perform, what benefits we get, all those type of things are described in this chapter. Okay, so let's start reading this chapter. Maybe I can ask the one who have not read recently. Yes, Shankar Prabhu. Are you there, Shankar Prabhu?
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
The screen is not being shared.
Yeah, I'm sharing now.
Oh, okay, there, yes.
So text 1 to 12, please.
Okay. Chapter 25, The Glories of Devotional Service. Text 1. Sri Saunaka said, although he is unborn, the Supreme Personality of Godhead took birth as Kapila Muni by his internal potency. He descended to disseminate transcendental knowledge for the benefit of the whole human race. Text 2. Saunaka continued, there is no one who knows more than the Lord himself. Can you please?
All right, sorry, I'm just looking at the WhatsApp. Yeah, okay.
No one is more worshipable or more mature a yogi than he. He is therefore the master of the Vedas, and to hear about him always is the actual pleasure of the senses. Text 3. Therefore, please precisely describe all the activities and pastimes of the personality of Godhead, who is full of self-desire and who assumes all these activities by his internal potency. Text 4. Sri Suta Goswami said, the most powerful sage, Maitreya, was a friend of Vyasadeva. Being encouraged and pleased by Viduра's inquiry about transcendental knowledge, Maitreya spoke as follows. Text 5. Maitreya said, when Kardama left for the forest, Lord Kapila stayed on the strand of the Bindu Sarovara to please his mother Devahuti. Text 6. When Kapila, who could show her the ultimate goal of the absolute truth, was sitting leisurely before her, Devahuti remembered the words Brahma had spoken to her, and she therefore began to question Kapila as follows. Text 7. Devahuti said, I am very sick of the disturbance caused by my material senses, for because of this sense disturbance, my Lord, I have fallen into the abyss of ignorance. Text 8. Your Lordship is my only means of getting out of this darkest region of ignorance, because you are my transcendental eye, which by your mercy only I have attained after many, many births. Text 9. You are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the origin and Supreme Lord of all living entities. You have arisen to disseminate the rays of the sun in order to dissipate the darkness of the ignorance of the universe. Text 10. Now be pleased, my Lord, to dispel my great delusion. Due to my feeling of false ego, I have been engaged by your Maya and I have identified myself with the body and consequent bodily relations. Text 11. Devahuti continued, I have taken shelter of your lotus feet because you are the only person of whom to take shelter. You are the axe which can cut the tree of material existence. I therefore offer my obeisances unto you, who are the greatest of all transcendentalists, and I inquire from you as to the relation between man and woman and between spirit and matter.
That's
Hare
fine.
Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank
I
you,
think
Prabhuji.
that's fine. Yeah, 1 to 11. Yeah. Okay, so thank you very much for that, Prabhu, Shankar Prabhu. So in the previous chapter, which is entitled The Renunciation of Kardama Muni, what we had seen was, so Kardama instructs Devahuti, don't disappoint. When Kardama said that he's going to renounce to the forest, leaving her on her own, she was very much disappointed in chapter 23. So 24 begins Kardama saying that don't be disappointed. Lord will appear as your son, as he promised. Then the Lord Brahma comes and he offered prayers to Lord Kapila in the womb of Devahuti, Mother Devahuti. And Lord Brahma also says that, oh Devahuti, you are very fortunate, you will be delivered, you will be delivered by the teachings of your son, who will be named as Kapila. And he also says Lord Brahma comes with his sons, Prajapatis, and along with Kumaras and Narada. So he advised Kardama Muni to hand over his 9 daughters to these 9 sages. And Lord Brahma, along with Kumaras and Kumaras and Narada, had left for the topmost planet in this material world, Satyaloka. After that, the marriage ceremony took place between the daughters of Kardama Devahuti and the 9 sages. And after that, Kardama approached his son Kapiladev, who is an incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, in a secluded place, and offered prayers to the Lord. And he glorified the Lord, and he asked for the permission of Lord Kapila so that he can go to the forest and meditate and perform austerities. Then Lord spoke and he gave his permission to the sage Kardama. Kardama left to the forest and performed austerities, meditation, and eventually he went back to Godhead. So in this chapter, so after Kardama had left, what had happened has been described here. So Shaunaka Muni, Shaunaka Rishi is the sage heading the sages of Naimisharanya. We know that the dialogue actually, initially the Bhagavatam was originally spoken by Shukadeva Goswami, son of Vyasdev, to Maharaj Parikshit on the bank of Ganges when he was about to leave his body. So he spoke 7 days and 7 nights. So while Shukadeva Goswami was narrating Bhagavatam in that assembly, Suta Goswami was present and he heard entire conversation with rapt attention, and he memorized everything with rapt attention he heard, having heard. Then Suta Goswami repeated entire narration to the sages of Naimisharanya, headed by Shaunaka, when he was requested. Uh, so Sutta Goswami is narrating entire thing to the sages headed by Shaunaka, entire discussion. So Shaunaka now is asking, yes, we heard now from you that Kardama Muni had left the forest and he attained the spiritual world. What happened? Please kindly describe the activities of Lord Kapila. And they're very purifying. He's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and these activities will always give pleasure to our senses. So then Sutta Goswami he narrates that after Kapila had left, after Kardama had left, Kapila Muni along with his mother stayed at Bindu Sarovara. We know that that is the place actually Kardama Muni initially performed his austerities for 100,000 years, something like that, or 10,000 years. And so he stayed at Bindu Sarovara. And he stayed with his mother, remembering the words of Brahma, Devuti had spoken and wanted to inquire about the spiritual knowledge and the spiritual path. And she mentions in the text 7, I am very sick of these disturbances caused due to my material senses, by which I have fallen into ignorance. So although she was the mother of Lord Kapila and daughter of Manu, she was a great princess. Yet she did mention this point, very important point, that sick of the disturbances caused due to the material senses. So in this world, there are two types of people who are happy. The ignorant are happy. Ignorance is bliss. But that happiness is not going to last forever. Being in ignorant, as they say, ignorance is bliss. So they don't care about anything, and they are just try to enjoy this material world, but that enjoyment won't last long. And the another kind of people who are happy, who are spiritually fully absorbed, pure devotees. And those who are in between, neither fully materialistic nor fully spiritual, people like ourselves, they actually suffer. They experience the misery. So she mentioned that she was actually sick of the disturbances caused by these material senses. And she mentions that you are my transcendental I, Sat Chakshur, and the one who makes me cross over this ignorance. So you are my transcendental I. You can only cross over, you can only make me cross over this ignorance. And after many, many births, I attain you by your mercy. She mentions, and this purport is very instructive. We will read that. And after that, then she asks her first question. She asks that I'm actually suffering from this illusion of aham mameti, I and my conception. I'm this body and this is mine. This is the conception that I'm in, and this is due to your illusory energy. And how can I, cross over that? How can I cross over? That was her question. But she mentions that Lord Kapila being a transcendental I, and he can only help her to cross over this ocean of ignorance. So Prabhupada comments in that purport very nicely. Let's read that text 8. Shankar Prabhu, you can probably read that as well.
Yes, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. This verse is very instructive since it indicates the relationship between the spiritual master and the disciple. The disciple or conditioned soul is put into this darkest region of ignorance and therefore is entangled in the material existence of sense gratification. It is very difficult to get out of this entanglement and attain freedom. But if one is fortunate enough to get the association of a spiritual master like Kapila Muni or his representative, then by his grace, one can be delivered from the mire of ignorance. The spiritual master is therefore worshipped as one who delivers the disciple from the mire of ignorance with the light of the torch of knowledge. The word paragam is very significant. Paragam refers to one who can take the disciple to the other side. This side is conditioned life, the other side is the life of freedom. The spiritual master takes the disciple to the other side by opening his eyes with knowledge. We are suffering simply because of ignorance. By the instruction of the spiritual master, the darkness of ignorance is removed, and thus the disciple is enabled to go to the side of freedom. It is stated in Bhagavad Gita that after many, many births, one surrenders to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Similarly, if after many, many births, one is able to find a bona fide spiritual master and surrender to such a bona fide representative of Krishna, one can be taken to the side of light. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. This is a wonderful, simply wonderful purport. Very instructive. You can go and reread this again. Third canto, 25th chapter, text 8. It is very important that we get a spiritual master, we take initiation, we take shelter of a spiritual master. It is said actually that Krishna actually comes in the form of spiritual master and guides us so that we can cross over this ocean of ignorance. We can see our life before we came in touch with this Hare Krishna movement, what kind of activities we were doing, what was our thought process, what was our goal, what were we aiming for. So what are our activities day in and day out? What were our activities? But now, having come in contact with the Prabhupada movement, that has changed to a degree. So by pleasing the spiritual master, one pleases the Lord himself. So by offering respects, we offer respects to the Lord. So the spiritual master is a very important aspect in the devotional service. And we must take guidance and approach a spiritual master and get initiated. That is very important. And she asked this famous question, in text 10. And now be pleased, my Lord, to dispel my great delusion due to my feeling of false ego, of being engaged by your Maya, and how identified myself with the body and consequent bodily relation. So being influenced by the illusory energy of the Lord, which is known as Maya in Sanskrit, we identify ourselves with this body and bodily relationship. In Sanskrit, it is said, Aham mameti. So this is it. Aham mameti. So this is me, and this is mine. Means we identify ourselves with this material body but we are actually the spirit soul, because due to conditioning, we identify this is to be mine, this house to be mine, this these items are mine, and these are my children, and these are my relatives, this is my wealth, and this much I've acquired today, this much I'm going to acquire tomorrow, in 10 years time. I'm famous now, I'll be more famous in 10 years or whatsoever. So everything we relates to this body, and this is called aham mameti. So, and she asked her first question, like, please kindly dispel my illusion. My illusion, everything I'm identifying this with a material body. Please kindly dispel. I am, a soul surrendered to you. So I've taken shelter of you. So kindly dispel. How can I come out of this concept of aham mameti? This materialistic life, material conditioning, everything I'm identifying with this body and bodily relationships. How can I come out? So let's read from text 12 to 27. Let's see who I can ask someone. Okay. Okay, Bhuvaneshwari Radha Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Haribol 12 to 27.
Thank you. Text 12. Maitreya said, after hearing of his mother's uncontaminated desire for transcendental realization, the Lord thanked her within himself for her questions, and thus, his face smiling, he explained the path of the transcendentalists who are interested in self-realization. Text 13. The personality of Godhead answered, the yoga system which relates to the Lord and the individual soul, which is meant for the ultimate benefit of the living entity, and which causes detachment from all happiness and distress in the material world, is the highest yoga system. Text 14. O most pious mother, I shall now explain unto you the ancient yoga system, which I explained formerly to the great sages. It is serviceable and practical in every way. Text 15. The stage in which the consciousness of the living entity is attracted by the three modes of material nature is called conditional life. But when that same consciousness is attached to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one is situated in the consciousness of liberation.
Hare Krishna.
Yes.
Text 16. When one is completely cleansed of the impurities of lust and greed produced from the false identification of the body as I and bodily possessions as mine, one's mind becomes purified. In the pure state, he transcends the stage of so-called material happiness and distress. Text 17. At that time, the soul can see himself to be transcendental to material existence and always self-effulgent, never fragmented, although very minute in size. Text 18. In the position of self-realization by practice of knowledge and renunciation in devotional service, one sees everything in the right perspective. He becomes indifferent to material existence, and the material influence acts less powerfully upon him. Text 19. Perfection in self-realization cannot be attained by any kind of yogi unless he engages in devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, for that is the only auspicious path. Text 20. Every learned man knows very well that attachment for the material is the greatest entanglement of the spirit soul. But that that same attachment, when applied to the self-realized devotees, opens the door of liberation. Text 21. The symptoms of a sadhu are that he is tolerant, merciful, and friendly to all living entities. He has no enemies. He is peaceful. He abides by the scriptures, and all his characteristics are sublime. Text 22. Such a sadhu engages in staunch devotional service to the Lord without deviation. For the sake of the Lord, he renounces all other connections, such as family relationships and friendly acquaintances within the world. Text 23. Engage constantly in chanting and hearing about me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The sadhus do not suffer from material miseries because they are always filled with thoughts of my pastimes and activities. Text 24. O my mother, O virtuous lady, these are the qualities of great devotees who are free from all attachment. You must seek attachment to such holy men, for this counteracts the pernicious effects of material attachment. Text 25. In the association of pure devotees, discussion of the pastimes and activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is very pleasing and satisfying to the ear and the heart. By cultivating such knowledge, and gradually becomes advanced on the path of liberation, and thereafter he is free and his attraction becomes fixed. Then real devotion and devotional service begin. Text 26. Thus, consciously engage in devotional service in the association of devotees, a person gains distaste for sense gratification both in the world and in the next by constantly thinking about the activities of the Lord. This process of Krishna consciousness is the easiest process of mystic power. When one is actually situated on the path of devotional service, he is able to control the mind. Text 27. Thus, by not engaging in the service of the modes of material nature, but by developing Krishna consciousness, knowledge in renunciation, and by practicing yoga, in which the mind is always fixed in devotional service unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one achieves my association in this very life, for I am the Supreme Personality of Absolute Truth.
Thank you. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you.
Yeah, so this, thank you very much, both of you. So this session is very important. There are so many wonderful instructions are there. So upon being questioned by his mother, devotee, about how she can come out of this bodily conception. In Sanskrit, we call it aham mameti, identifying with this body and bodily relationships. So Lord smiled, and then he started to explain. And he said that to counteract this, the process is Adhyatmika Yoga, he said. In text 13, he says Adhyatmika Yoga. I'll keep it simple so that I don't want to use so many technical terms and confuse everyone. I want to give the essence of the chapter. So Adhyatmika Yoga consists of bhakti. There are three processes in Adhyatmika Yoga. One is bhakti, the other is jnana or sankhya, and the third is yoga, means Ashtanga Yoga. But among these three processes, bhakti, jnana, and yoga, bhakti is superior. And Lord says that the important aspect is controlling the mind. When mind is controlled, then one conquers this illusion. But that mind is only controlled by bhakti. So people usually say that just do whatever you like, whatever your instinct says. It is not like that. We have to endeavor to control our propensities, our desires. And with strong determination, we should endeavor in the devotional service. So Lord says the mind has to be controlled. Mind attached to the Lord leads to liberation. And the best process of attaining the attaching the mind to the Lord is bhakti. So the mind should attach to the Lord, and this will lead to the liberation. And the best process for attaching our mind to the Lord is bhakti. And the text 19, in the text 19, he says only by bhakti one can achieve this. Let's read this. I'll just. Na yujyamanaya bhaktya bhagavatya kilatmani sadrushosti shiva panta yoginam brahma siddhaye. Perfection in self-realization cannot be attained by any kind of yogi unless he engages in devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. For that is the only auspicious path. So even one performs jnana or yoga, one has to have a degree of bhakti element. But here clearly the Lord Kapila says that self-realization cannot be attained by any yogi unless one engages in the devotional service of the Lord. He says, bhaktya bhagavatya kilatmani. Only by bhakti, there should be bhakti. Otherwise, one will not be able to achieve that self-realization. That is the key point here. Okay. So going back, how do I come out of this I and mine concept? Come out of the illusion, come out of identifying with bodily relationship, from the bodily relationships. And Lord says that yoga has to perform, and he says that mind to the Lord leads to this freedom. And the best process to attach one's mind to the Lord is bhakti. And without bhakti, no yogi can attain self-realization. Unless one engages in the devotional service, that is bhakti, one is not able to achieve self-realization. And that is the auspicious path. And one may ask, how do I get this bhakti? How do I perform bhakti? How to get this bhakti? So this next verse is a famous verse. I think you all should memorize it. And if not, at least memorize the. If not, if you're unable to memorize the Sanskrit, you can also just memorize the English. So how to get bhakti? Prasangam ajaram pasham atmanaha kavayo vidhu sayeva sadhushu kruto moksha dvaram apavrutam. Fundamental verse for every aspiring devotee in devotional service. Every learned man knows very well that attachment for the material is the greatest entanglement of the spirit soul. But that same attachment, when applied to the self-realized devotees, opens the door of liberation. So there is an attachment inherently within us. But if we have attachment, we are applying our attachment to the material things. Yeah, attachment to the material things. So when we apply our attachment to the material related things, it causes bondage. But the same attachment, if we apply it to the saintly people, that will open door for the liberation. Let's read this purport. We will read a few purports. Anuradha Mataji, are you there? If not, Anil Prabhu. Am I audible?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, Prabhu, we can.
Okay. If Anil Prabhu.
I read?
Yes, Sumit, please.
Purport or translation? Both.
Purport, please.
Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Here it is clearly stated that attachment for one thing is the cause of bondage in conditioned life, and the same attachment, when applied to something else, opens the door of liberation. Attachment cannot be killed, it has simply to be transferred. Attachment for material things is called material consciousness, and attachment for Krishna or his devotee is called Krishna consciousness. Consciousness is therefore the platform of attachment. It is clearly stated here that when we simply purify the consciousness from material consciousness to Krishna consciousness, we attain liberation. Despite the statement that one should give up attachment, desirelessness is not possible for a living entity. A living entity by constitution has the propensity to be attached to something. We see that if someone has no object of attachment, if he has no children, then he transfers his attachment to cats and dogs. This indicates that the propensity for attachment cannot be stopped. It must be utilized for the best purpose. Our attachment for material things perpetuates our conditional state, but the same attachment, when transferred to the Supreme Personality of Godhead or his devotee, is the source of liberation.
Yeah, so fundamental point here is that Lord Kapila advising Mother Devotee, if you want to get bhakti, attached to saintly people, sadhus, yes, sa eva sadhushu kruto moksha dvaram apavrutam. Just simply, apply your attachment. Get associate with the devotees. Get attached to the sadhus. So the word used here, sadhu. Just let's see. Someone is okay. Yeah. So, but one may ask, Lord Kapila is telling associate or attached to sadhus. Who is a sadhu? Who is a sadhu? Who is a devotee? Who is a saintly person? And can we recognize them by having them a long beard or matted hair, or sometimes without having no clothes? So all these, what are the symptoms? How do we identify a sadhu, saintly person? Yes, you are telling. So he's telling Mother Devotee to associate or attach to the sadhus. And the next verse tells us the characteristics of sadhu, so with which you can identify sadhu. These are the secondary characteristics. Primary characteristics are described in the next verse, but these are the secondary characteristics. Famous verse. So this is a sadhu. This is a devotee. Yes, with these qualities you identify a saintly person, not the external qualities. Titikshvaha karunikaha surudaha sarvadehinam ajata shatravaha shantaha sadhava sadhu bhushana. Famous verse. You don't have much time to read the purport, but you can go and read the purport. So titikshva, one has to be tolerant. A sadhu is tolerant. First characteristics. Karunika is very kind and merciful. And then Suhrudaha, friendly. Sarvadehinam is friendly to all living entities. Prabhupada describes in the purport that Shivananda Sena, one devotee, had a dog. He was looking after dogs so nicely. He was feeding dogs so nicely. Eventually, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave him some coconut prasad, and the next day the dog disappeared. Everybody concluded that the dog has reached the spiritual world, left its body and spiritual world. So Prabhupada says that every living entity, Surdaha Sarvadehinam, not just the human beings, but friendly with all living entities. That's why they don't kill any animals or torture any animals. They don't engage any kind of non-violence. So tolerance and merciful, friendly with all living entities. Ajata Shatravaha, he doesn't have any enemies. Someone may consider devotee as his enemy, but devotee never considers himself, devotee never considers others to be their enemies. Say, for example, Duryodhana considered Yudhishthir Maharaj as his enemy, but Yudhishthir never considered Duryodhana as his enemy. Ajata Shatravaha and Sadhava, Shantaha, very, very peaceful, and Sadhava, and he always abides by the scriptures. Sadhu Bhushana, these are the ornaments of Sadhu. So sometimes you wonder, we can read these characteristics and see where we are, how tolerant we are, how merciful we are, how friendly we are with other living entities. Are we inimical to others, other devotees and other people? Are we peaceful generally? Are we abiding by the scriptures? So these are the secondary characteristics. These secondary characteristics of the sadhu or saintly person are developed because of these primary characteristics. So this is a very famous verse. Because of this, they develop those characteristics. Mayananyena bhavena bhaktim kurvanti ye dhrudham matkrute tyakta karmanas tyakta swajana bandhavaha. So the primary character, devotional service unto the Lord, dhrudham. They perform devotional service, staunch devotional service, thinking the Lord is everything. They give up if necessary, they give up their family relations and other relatives and other people. And sannyasi, say for example, Prabhupada, when he took sannyasi, he had left his family. He was just roaming on his own. No family relations. So this is the primary characteristics. So here, such a sadhu engages in staunch devotional service to the Lord without deviation. For the sake of the Lord, he renounces all other connections, such as family relationship and friendly acquaintances within the world. And in the Bhagavad Gita, we know a famous verse, Satatam kirtayanto mam yatantasya drudavrata Namasyanta shamam bhaktya nityayukta upasate. 9:14. They always sing a lot about the Lord, chanting my glories always, and they always offer obeisances unto me, engage in devotional service. So this is an important purport. So we have seen some the characteristics in the previous verse, but by engaging in the devotion, one automatically develops those characteristics. A devotee, when engages in the Supreme Personality of God, devotional service onto Supreme Personality of Godhead Sri Krishna, he naturally develops all good qualities. We'll read this purport, this important purport. Let's see, we should. Sri Mataji, are you there? Okay. Meena Jatani Mataji?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Please, can you read the purport?
For text
22.
22, yeah?
Yeah.
Thank you. A person in the renounced order of life, a sannyasi, is also called a sadhu because he renounces everything: his home, his comfort, his friends, his relatives, and his duties to friends and to family. He renounces everything for the sake of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. A sannyasi is generally in the renounced order of life, but his renunciation will be successful only when his energy is employed in the service of the Lord with great austerity. It is said here, therefore, bhaktim kurvanti ye dridham. A person who seriously engages in the service of the Lord and is in the renounced order of life is a sadhu. A sadhu is one who has given up all responsibility to society, family, and worldly humanitarianism simply for the service of the Lord. As soon as he takes his birth in the world, a person has so many responsibilities and obligations to the public, to the demigods, to the great sages, to the general living beings, to his parents, to the family forefathers, and to many others. When he gives up all such obligations for the sake of the service of the Supreme Lord, he is not punished for such renunciation of obligation. But if for sense gratification a person renounces all such obligations, he is punished by the law of nature. Hare Krishna.
Right. So this is the main thing here. So he engages. This is the primary characteristic. By engaging in the devotional service, the secondary characteristics will be developed. And so what does he do? Activities. Activities always, engaged in hearing about the Lord. That's the main thing. Constantly engaged in chanting and hearing about me. And always filled with the thoughts of my pastimes and activities. So this is it. When devotees come together, we should not just simply gossip or talk something, worldly thing. We should always try and discuss the pastimes of the Lord. And these are the activities. So they always talk about the Lord. They always, relish discussing the pastimes of the Lord. And so in text 24, "Oh my mother, virtuous lady, these are the qualities of great devotees who are free from all attachment. You must seek attachment to such holy man, for this counteracts the pernicious effects of the material attachment." So this is another famous verse. So you can memorize this very, very famous verse. Satam prasangan mama virya samvido bhavanti vrutkarna rasayana kataha tajoshanadashva apavarga vartmani Shraddha Ratir Bhaktiranukramishati. So these people, if we hear in the association of these pure devotees about the Lord and his activities, what happens is that acts as a rasayana. It is very pleasing to the heart and ears. This discussion of the topics about the Lord should be done in the association of pure devotees of the Lord. It will be pleasing to the heart and ear. And if we just hear this process, go on hearing, then what happens is automatically Shraddha, we develop faith, strong faith, Ratir, attraction to the Lord, Bhaktir, staunch devotion, eventually Anukramishati, eventually they follow one after another. But this is a process gradually one should follow. Hear about the Lord in the association of pure devotees of the Lord. And so next session we will read from text 28 till the end of the chapter. Who would like to read? So we'll take 5 minutes extra today.
Probably I could read it.
I can read, Prabhu.
So many devotees.
Sorry, which verse was this verse? Which number?
This is 25.
25, okay.
Okay, let's see now, back 28 onwards. Okay, Philip Prabhu, you can read some verses. I will stop you after that.
Okay, text 28. On hearing this statement of the Lord, Devahuti inquired, what kind of devotional service is worth developing and practicing to help me easily and immediately attain the service of your lotus feet? Text 29. The mystic yoga system, as you have explained, aims at the Supreme Personality of Godhead and is meant for completely ending material existence. Please let me know the nature of that yoga system. How many ways are there by which one can understand in truth that sublime yoga? Text 30. My dear son Kapila, after all, I am a woman. It is very difficult for me to understand the absolute truth because my intelligence is not very great. But if you kindly explain it to me, even though I am not very intelligent, I can understand it and thereby feel transcendental happiness. Text 33. Sri Maitreya said, after hearing the statement of his mother, Kapila could understand her purpose, and he became compassionate towards her because of being born of her body. He described the Sankhya system of philosophy, which is a combination of devotional service and mystic realization, as received by disciplic succession. Text 32. Lord Kapila said, the senses are symbolic representation of the demigods, and their natural inclination is to work on the direction of the Vedic injunctions. As these senses are representative of the demigods, so the mind is the representative of Supreme Personality of Godhead. The mind's natural duty is to serve. When that service spirit is engaged in devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead without any motive, that is far better even than salvation. Text 33. Bhakti, devotional service, dissolves the subtle body of the living entity without separate effort. Just as fire in the stomach digests all that we eat. Text 34. A pure devotee who is attached to the activities of devotional service and who always engages in the service of my lotus feet never desires to become one with me. Such a devotee who is unflinchingly engaged, always glorifies my pastimes and activities. Text 35. My mother, my devotees always see the smiling face of my form, with eyes like the rising morning sun. They like to see my various transcendental forms, which are benevolent, and they also talk favorably with me. Text 36. Upon seeing the charming form of the Lord, smiling and attractive, and hearing his very pleasing words, the pure devotee almost loses all other consciousness. His senses are freed from all other engagement, and he becomes absorbed in devotional service. Thus, in spite of his unwillingness, he attains liberation without separate endeavor. Text 37. Thus, because he is completely absorbed in thought of me, the devotee does not desire even the highest benediction obtainable in the upper planetary systems, including Satyaloka. He does not desire the 8 material perfections obtained from mystic yoga, nor does he desire to be elevated to the kingdom of God. Yet, even without desiring them, the devotee enjoys, even in this lifetime, all the offered benedictions. Text 38. The Lord continued, my dear mother, devotees who receive such transcendental opulences are never bereft of them. Neither weapons nor the change of time can destroy such opulences. Because the devotee accepts me as their friend, their relative, their son, preceptor, benefactor, and supreme deity, they cannot be deprived of their possessions at any time. Text 39 to 40. Thus, the devotee who worships me, the all-pervading Lord of the universe, in unflinching devotional service, gives up all aspirations to be promoted to the heavenly planets or to become happy in this world with wealth, children, cattle, home, or anything in relationship with the body. I take him to the other side of birth and death. Text 41. The terrible fear of birth and death could never be forsaken by anyone who resorts to any shelter other than myself. For I am the Almighty Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the original source of all creation, and also the Supreme Soul of all souls. Text 42. It is because of my supremacy that the wind blows out of fear of me, the sun shines out of fear of me, and the Lord of the clouds, Indra, sends forth showers out of the fear of me. Fire burns out of fear of me, and death goes about taking its toll out of fear of me. Text 43. The yogis, equipped with transcendental knowledge and renunciation and engagement in devotional service for their eternal benefit, take shelter of my lotus feet. And since I am the Lord, they are thus eligible to enter into the kingdom of God, head without fear. Text 44. Therefore, persons whose minds are fixed on the Lord, engagement in the intensive practice of devotional service is the only means for attainment of the final perfection of life. Hare Krishna.
So here you can see in the 44th verse, Lord says that one should engage in intensive practice of devotional service, which is called Trivra Bhakti. This is the only means for attainment of final perfection of life. So Mother Devahuti then asks the Lord in text 28, she asks actually, what kind of bhakti should I perform to easily attain your lotus feet? And Lord Kapila says that actually you should perform bhava bhakti. Bhava bhakti means naturally having that attachment to the Lord. But however, if you are not on the level of bhava stage, then you can perform sadhana bhakti or vaidhi bhakti. Vaidhi bhakti means following the rules and regulations. Do not have spontaneous attractions for the Lord, but you force yourself that, okay, get up early morning, go perform harti, look at the lordships, take darshan of the lordships and chant your rounds and hear Srimad Bhagavatam, serve the spiritual master. This is sadhana bhakti, vaidhi bhakti. And by this process, eventually one get to the vaidhi bhakti, bhava bhakti, or advanced stage, spontaneous attraction to the Lord. And then the Lord describes, and from 34 to 38, the characteristics of a pure devotee, or one who is in the advanced stage. And he says that that devotee never desires impersonal liberation, always engages in the service of my lotus feet. He always glorifies my activities in the association of devotees. Yes. Sees my attractive smiling face with red eyes. Sees my various forms. Talks favorably with me. And Lord says, bhakti gives the liberation without separate endeavor. While they don't desire higher planets and Ashtasiddhis or even the kingdom of God, they attain all benediction even in this life, and I award them my own abode. They are not deprived of any opulence or affected by time, because they accept the Lord as their lover, son, friend, etc. in the spiritual world. And there is no need to be, the devotee need not to fear of anything, because it's because of the fear of me, wind blows. Because of fear of me, out of fear of me, the sun shines, and Indra pours rain, fire burns, like that. So there is no need for devotee to be fearful in this world. And Lord says at the end that we must perform tivra bhakti, intensive bhakti, to actually achieve the lotus feet of the Lord. So in this chapter, Mother Devahuti asks the primary question: how can she come out of this aham mameti concept? That is, I and mine bodily concept. Out of ignorance. Lord says that one must perform bhakti, and bhakti is the only means to get full self-realization. And how to perform bhakti? One has to be attached to sadhus. And who are sadhus? Sadhus, characteristics of sadhus are given. And the main characteristics is firmly engaged in the devotional service. And by their engaging devotional service, one develop tolerance and kindness and all that characteristics, various good qualities, they automatically develop. And this, and if you attach to them and hear the Lord's pastimes in their association, it is very pleasing to the heart and the ear. By regularly hearing in the association of pure devotees, one's faith becomes stronger, and eventually one gets attracted, that ruchi, and get pure love of Godhead eventually. And Mother Devahuti later asked what kind of bhakti that she should perform to attain his lotus feet. Lord says that perform bhava bhakti, advanced. But if you're not at that stage, then follow a Vaidhi Bhakti with rules and regulations. And at the end of the chapter, Lord gives the characteristics of a pure devotee. And at the end, Lord suggests that one should perform bhakti with intensity. And that's where the chapter ends. Sorry, I've taken a little extra time, but we managed to finish this entire chapter. Hare Krishna. If anyone has any comments or any questions, please do so. Otherwise, we'll have to say goodbye.
Thank you, Prabhuji, for a wonderful class. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you.
Prabhuji, just one question.
Sure.
On Sunday, sorry, not regarding this, about the Sunday program, sorry. Can I just quickly ask you?
Sure.
So Sunday, are we having the regular morning, afternoon program? I mean, there will probably be Mangal Aarti program, morning program.
This Sunday, we will have a usual program, Sunday feast program from 12:30 to 3 o'clock.
Okay, so we are celebrating Ram Navami in the afternoon. Okay.
Yeah, usual time, because it's Sunday. We don't want to do too many programs.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is
So,
the Mangal Aarti?
I will have to check with Radha Vinod Prabhu. We will send the message out.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Yeah. Yes. So thank you. Yes. So this chapter is very important. You can go and read many of the verses we discussed. We didn't have time to read all the purports, many of the purports, but you would love to, you would love them reading at your convenient time.
Yeah, these are instructions for us, Prabhuji. We have to read again and again.
Again and again. And just by doing that process again and again, our faith becomes firm. It's a simple process. We have to just do it, even without, even if we do not have attraction, even if we do not have taste, at least we have to initially force ourselves, and we get that attraction eventually.
Yeah.
Just like we are, some or other on Thursday night, I have so many other things I managed to because this class is there, some or other, I force myself, so that's why we have to create some activities for engagements for ourselves, forcefully. This engagement, okay, Thursday, this Sangha, Sunday feast program, Saturday morning program, like that, we have to create forcefully ourselves for some activities. So that we get engaged nicely. Otherwise, empty mind is devil's den, as they say.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Grandhara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai,
Ki jai.
Nitai Gaura Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.